Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Made by Folk live session. I'm very excited tonight to invite Kyle Wilkinson of Wilkinson Studios for a chat. He's going to talk us through a variety of projects that he's worked on in the past that all kind of resemble different themes in his work. And I think it's going to be super helpful for a lot of you guys. So I hope you stick around for this 20 to 30 minute live stream, and then we'll have a live AMA after party on Instagram. I'll share a link in the chat and also in the description later on. So make sure to stick around and join us there as well afterwards. But first of all, let's get our guest on and make sure we can actually hear and see him. Kyle, welcome.
Good evening.
Yeah, works fine. I think I can hear you. I can see you. Seems to be working. All right. Well, let's just warm up a little bit by telling us about the interesting space that you're in and where you're talking to us today.
Yeah. So I'm currently in what is a sunny Sheffield, which is a rare occurrence. So yeah, up in the north of England, in Sheffield. So, but we're just in our new studio.
You mentioned it's looking pretty good.
So getting there. Just getting set up. So got a few bits to do and get a few more things on the wall and get a few.
Is this a bigger space? Is this a bigger space than you were in before, or?
It's kind of similar size, but it's a little bit closer to home. So now, given everything that's happened in the last 12 months, it's a little bit closer to home, so that I can be a bit more flexible in terms of working and bobbing in. And it's just I probably look to do 3 days a week now here, so and then a couple at home. Given that anybody who I work with is going to be working remotely most of the time, so it's good. And it's a bit more of a practical, functional space for setting things on fire and doing all the other stuff.
Which we will be getting into, all your sort of experimental work. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about that. Well, how about you give our viewers and listeners a quick little intro to what you've got planned for us today?
Yeah, so the studio based on specialising in not specialising, and it's a bit of a weird term, but we get involved with a broad variety of projects. Primarily, the studio works within branding and graphic design and brand strategy. But a lot of the other projects that we get involved with could be creating a new visual direction for editorials, such as the New York Times, or building trophies or building furniture for exhibitions or people for commercial enterprises as well. So it's a broad spectrum of stuff I get bored and I like to design different stuff. That's really
that's what drives you.
Pretty much.
Well, great. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing, obviously in preparation for this, I've been going through your portfolio and a lot of the work that you've showed me and I've shared on the channel. And yeah, that already represents like such a great, interesting mix of ideas and not necessarily styles. I think it all still kind of fits quite nicely together, but you do definitely focus on a lot of different approaches to getting the idea across.
Yeah, and it is all about the idea. So to me, I've always avoided having a style, particularly from a design directional point of view, purposely because it's not listening to the brief. I want my voice or influence to come through, because ultimately that's what the client is paying for. They come to go to different studios because they believe that they will have the right solution, and they want my point of view, but you've got to listen to the brief and answer it accordingly, not just going, I want to do this, so I'm doing this, if it's not right for the project. So always avoided styles, really to a certain degree, for that reason.
And did you ever find that clients would still come to you though, picking out one project from another and saying, we kind of want to go in this direction, hinting at, we like this style?
I think we all get that, don't we? Just like, oh yeah, can we have that, but in our brand, please. That's. I think that is trying to educate the client. Sometimes it is the right fit. Sometimes they just don't know another way. So we'll try and show them another way if we can think of a better way. We're happy to kind of do a similar approach if needs be, because it might fit the project, but if we can come up with a better solution. One came up last week where they asked us for a potential lighting concept, and we gave them a bench design in return, and they were a better result. Yeah, so it's kind of like, you want that, but have this because this is better. And it's not about not listening to the client or ignoring them, but it's kind of trying to interpret what they're after and seeing if you can answer the brief better, because that's ultimately what you're hired to do. You're paid to figure out the solution to their problem half the time. But sometimes it might just be making something look good, which that's another part of the job, isn't it? But half the time, half the battle is the concept and the idea that you need to really get a narrative through.
Well, speaking about concepts and ideas, shall we try and get your screen share up and running, and then you can run us through a couple of examples?
Let's see if this works. Yeah, first time. Come on.
First time. You be my first guess where it works seamlessly. If this works, okay. Let me have a look. We'll get you on full screen. Yes. So far, I don't want to jinx it.
I'm telling you, me and you, we're going to get hired. Chris Mitchell. Next slide, please. That's us.
This is us.
Anyway, right.
You're on full screen. We can see you and your slides. So go ahead.
Well, hopefully that's changed. It's changed slides.
It has.
Yeah. So niching. I really want to kind of highlight this point within the studio's approach. My approach is all about not niching, and there's been a big push for people to niche down and do and find their niche. And niching is a great thing to package yourself up and sell to businesses. It makes you easy to sell yourself. But some people don't like niching. They really don't want to do that. And I'm here to say it's okay to not niche. It's also okay to niche. Find your way. If I can do it, you can, if you want to, with a little caveat there. What that means is I'm not trained in any of this, and that's not me being a big head. That's me saying it's an abundance of determination as opposed to talent that's seen me through my career, I believe. So if you fancy doing something, just get it done, give it a go, and yeah, just get stuck in. And a core idea on a concept, on a project, a core concept carries you through it and can give you the answers to the end result if you just put the time and effort into the core concept and idea, as opposed to running off and getting into the sexy stuff of designing stuff. Overuse of the word stuff. Anyway, as I mentioned, specializing and not specializing. I'm going to try and talk you through that in a quick 2-3 minute whirlwind tour of stuff. Again, word stuff. So primarily working in branding and logo design and brand strategy, brand toolkits, whatever you want to call it. Branding companies. They could be startups, small companies, right up to we've recently delivered a branding program for Santander. So it's right at one end of the spectrum, right to the bigger corporations and bigger brands. So that could be, like I said, for tech businesses. It could be for like logo types for musicians. This is one that we collaborated with Radim Malinic from Brand New. It could be logo types and graphic design, because we designed a book and logos and other assets for Mercedes-Benz's fashion talents. We ended up going to London Fashion Week, and my accent stuck out like a sore thumb. And or it could be, again, for tech businesses like Rebel Based Media, who are the podcasting, rebellious podcasting company, and we created a graphic and illustrative branding approach for them. And so it could be more traditional graphic design and branding that we get involved with. 3D stuff that like this is one of the things that we've recently delivered for Santander with character design and branding, brand direction. We could be setting things on fire and creating images for advertising or for editorial commissions or any other weird and wonderful things that we might get involved with. We could be building things out of paper like this for this campaign that we did for a shopping centre called Meadowall in Sheffield. So, or we could be creating things with water for Wired. where we use this kind of photographic approach where you've got this bubbly water type. This is quite in vogue now, and it's something that it's great to see more of this coming to the forefront, this weird stuff that I particularly enjoy. And this, it's a really good kind of result, bold and graphic result with organic forms. You could be doing things like this, but I'd recommend that you don't, is projecting things into your eyeball to create images like this.
So you actually did that onto the eye? I always thought you would just do that in Photoshop afterwards.
No, that's why I always flash up the photo on the right, because I want people to appreciate at least the craft that went into it. But that was for computer arts, God bless its soul, when that were around. And so that was just one of them kind of, the brief was, why does design matter? So I'd said the design matters because we create the future through our views and vision on life and the world. So I wanted to get that message across there. But again, just weird and wonderful stuff, that it can be traditional, more graphic branding approaches to weird stuff like this. Should really stop calling it weird stuff. Again, more weird stuff. This is an image that we shot for Computer Arts for their front cover, and it's made out of Tesco's value cream. Of all things. So again, another point in terms of if I can do it is you can make things out of nothing with a bit of creative thinking. To keep the cost down and to keep something relatively easy and simple to get hold of, we use Tesco cream. So that's Tesco's cream for 79 pence worth of cream there, with photography and Photoshop. Or illustrations, just started doing a new illustration series and paintings, which could make obvious statements like this, or more serious political kind of things that we've got going on in the world, but really just simple graphic approaches that I really like, and dabbling with that. Or we can go to some of the other things that I've alluded to. So this is the brand Impact Award trophy. So these have been going around 6 or 7 years now. Quite an old project, this. That we built the trophies for the Brand Impact Awards, which is still going now.
Are they still using them as well?
Yeah, they're still using the trophies. Nice. The trophies have been used every year up until I think the first year actually they didn't use these, and then they got them redesigned because I don't think they were really doing what they wanted them to do. So we redesigned them, and these are still being given out annually.
Cool.
It's been given to loads of different studios. It's one of them kind of proud moments personally, because it's nice to know that the work is all around the world. I mean, that one's for Sagmeister and Walsh, because the idea is that you've got I think it's 8 fins. So when you creating a brand, it's all about different facets. So it could be the typeface, the colours, the strategy, the tone of voice. All these things come together and interlock. So the trophies aren't held together with any adhesive or screws. They all just interlock. And it's all about kind of telling that narrative of all these individual pieces coming to create one successful brand identity.
Nice.
So we've got winners all around the world. This is Snask, for anybody who likes Snask's work.
I should have worn my Snask jumper in preparation.
I mean, if lockdown goes on any longer, we might even have the hair ready to crack on with Snask. But I mean, Snask's work goes without saying. They're
really great.
And it's nice. This is another example. It's just nice to know that that kind of work is sat in some of these studios that I respect and admire as well. So it's nice to know that. But again, cracking project, but just another indication of how you can do things a little bit different. And we've done lights. So this is a lighting design that I created a few years back, just as a studio project. So the one thing that I, in terms of the principles that I like to adhere to from a studio perspective is always about trying to learn something new on a project, trying to teach something on a project, the lights have gone down.
I can still see you.
Still see me, I'll carry on.
Yeah, looks all good.
So I just don't want them to go into pitch black, that'd be funny.
All right.
I think we're on a motion sensor. And really, I invest. I make sure that in terms of annually investing a proportion of profits to R&D and play lab projects, what I call play lab projects for the studio, and that'll be where we kind of just do something for the sake of it, to learn new skills or to try and push something into a new category, or even just develop something new. It could be trying to create something new. There's a lot of failures involved with that, as is in any R&D project. But I like to try and push things forward from a skill set. So hence that's a light that we designed. And then I ended up launching a lighting collection at London Design Festival 3 years ago.
No way.
So these sold quite well, which we were surprised that they went down really well. I'll just turn these lights on.
On you go.
And again. Yep. Know how to design a light. I don't know how to.
There we go.
Yeah. So so this is a lighting collection that we designed for London Design Festival, and this was just a pure passion project, really, that I wanted to see if I could do it. And just the takeaway kind of story on this one is that we actually had the space for the stand before anything was designed. So a good way of getting things done on side projects is to kind of put it out that you're going to do it, or at least commit to doing something like this, and then all of a sudden the designs come from wherever they come from. But it makes sure that I've been banging on about doing this for a while, and it took booking the space to get it done. And this was a chair design that I created quite some time ago. But this is again just part of the experimental and specialising in not specialising approach is what leads to other projects, and has led to me working on other projects like this. And but this is a chair that's made out of acrylic, and it got nominated for best furniture design or furniture design of the year when it came out, and it's featured on Perspex's website as an inspirational piece.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, this was bonkers. This, in all honesty, somebody said we created an exhibition. We created an idea for an exhibition for a client. We said you should. One of the markets that you could target is designers and creatives using laser cutting. So we said what about an exhibition? And anyway, so they asked us to create a centerpiece for the exhibition. And back then, this were the first attempt at something like this, stepping out of graphics and branding and creating a lot of type and bespoke type. This was the first attempt at stepping away from that. And I just said I don't want to do anything that I've never done before. I just said I don't want to do anything that goes on a wall. That was my stipulation. Where I don't want to design anything that sits on a wall. So this was the result of it. And
awesome.
It surprised myself, to be fair, 'cause it turned out pretty well. But it were designed. I wanted it to look like it were going to snap if you sat on it, because it's acrylic. It looks it's called glass edged acrylic, so it looks like glass. So it looked like it were going to snap if you sat on it. So it made for a bit of theatre at the exhibition, because you could invite people to sit on it, and they were all kind of getting on it as if.
And it was reasonably sturdy then, I take it, or?
It was pretty good, but I mean, I'm no structural engineer, so like when they were taking the exhibition, I was shitting myself, because I'm like, is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? But no, it was pretty sturdy. We had a big old Mark Asquith get on there, and he's a big bugger, so he's got plenty of muscle behind him. So yeah, he tested it.
Awesome.
But we went on to design another chair for a following exhibition that didn't have that kind of problem, because we had the steel, Corten steel. So the idea between these two is that this one's really detailed from the side, really simple from the front. And this is the different. This is flipping it so that we've got something really simple and graphic from the side, and then really complex from the front. And we wanted this to be more brutalist inspired.
Really cool. And then was this part of the same exhibition, or this came later?
The exhibition was done on a grand scale in a bigger gallery the following year. So it were really successful. So I wanted to design another chair.
Nice.
But this was purposely created out of this rusty material, so that it was intended to be an outdoor rocking chair. So that you could sit outside and the rust would sit more naturally in a green environment. So that's why it was designed like that. And yeah, so that's kind of a bit of a specialising and not specialising, and a bit of hopefully an explanation as to what that means. Yeah, it's led to that kind of difference in approach has led to working with recently. So this is something that we've just done for the European Commission. So yes, they're still our friends. And yeah,
wait, were you hired pre or post Brexit?
I mean, it was pre-December, so that when that kind of thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that kind of like we're in, but we're not in, but we're out, but
yeah, that counts as friendship.
Yeah, so I mean everything. It's pretty good. So the brief on this. So when I want to talk about the concept and just really the concept that carried this through. So the brief was design something for the Social Innovation Award, Reimagine Fashion. I know, an extensive brief. One of them briefs, do us something. What can you do? And one of them briefs where you go, oh, just one of them. So when they mentioned about Reimagine Fashion, so the Social Innovation Award is a prize that is awarded to any organisation that's doing good things for the world within a certain sector. So this year's or last year's was fashion. So anybody along the supply chain that is doing good for the world of fashion. So that could be people manufacturing fabrics. That could be people manufacturing something that like a dye that goes into fabrics. Anything along the supply chain. It's not necessarily a fashion designer. So it is in this case it's awarding and celebrating companies that are looking at more sustainable ways of creating things for the fashion world along the supply chain. So they asked for a concept, and I just want to talk you through that a little bit and the stages, just to give you a little bit of insight on how we approach it.
Awesome.
So if anybody's ever interested in doing this kind of work, it's kind of similar to how you would approach it, a traditional branding project, where you would ask the client questions. You would try and really dig down to a core idea of what you're going to do, and then build off that and create sketches, get approvals, get assets, design finals, get final approval, and then send it. It all follows a very similar process. Just you have to step out of your comfort zone when you don't know how to use a sewing machine, for example, which is what happened on this. This is one of the most challenging projects I've done for this. This was really difficult. To put it bluntly. But the idea were that we're reimagining fashion. So I wanted the idea I had were like the fashion world phoenixing, so rising up, and that were the first initial idea that I had. And naturally, these trophies for me, because we were celebrating sustainability, I wanted the trophy to be sustainable itself in its build and its construction. It seemed silly to celebrate sustainability and hand somebody a plastic trophy, an acrylic trophy, an engraved acrylic trophy, like you do see some things like that, or even a metal trophy that you get given out. It felt wrong because it didn't feel right for the brief. So we started looking at fabrics flying through the air, and I kind of really wanted to capture that kind of moment when fabric gets caught in the wind and blows in the wind, and really figuring out how to capture that. So this is how we started in terms of looking at forms of fabrics, and it's almost like making the bed. You know, when you're waving it about, it's a bit like that. But really just trying to photograph and capture different forms to try and look at the shapes that it creates, and that's the type of thing. So I'd say, yeah, that's what I want to make, and just imagine that as a trophy. Wouldn't that be cool? I didn't know it was going to be that hard. It was like pain in the ass.
So did you present the initial idea just via like an image or a sketch, or did they pretty much understand what you were trying to do from the beginning?
No, so I sent them this.
Mm.
So this was, rather than sketch this, I wanted to try and create it so they had an understanding. Because like any piece of advice I can give is try not rely on the client's imagination too much, because they will often misinterpret it, so that you may end up in a different path. So try and give them something. And given that this is a little bit of a new creation, I felt we need to give them something to go off. It's only fair. So this is actually the stuff that you put under, AstroTurf. You know, the membrane stuff.
Yeah.
Garden. So let's just remember that this project has been done in lockdown. So nothing was open. So it made it 10 times harder when you're going, oh, we could use that. Oh, we could use that. Oh, shit, we can't get to. What have we got in the house? And so this was me just scrambling around the house, just going, what have we got that I can try and demonstrate? So what this is that stuff that you stick under AstroTurf with an elastic band round it and kind of arranged in that kind of manner. Managed to get the shape kind of where I wanted to go, just to give a bit of indication. Client sent it, they loved it, they loved the concept of it, this kind of like flying fabric, making the trophy out of fabric and not like making it look like fabric, so that we can use sustainably sourced fabrics within the trophy. So again, it's just going back to the core concept of sustainability and celebrating it and putting the fabric front and centre at these awards.
Yeah.
So that's when the tricky part came, is that, right, we've got the concept. This was relatively simple and easy, but how do you build something like this out of fabric that, again, if you're giving it out at an awards ceremony, you kind of hand it out, people will be careful with it, but how do you get them where they don't fall apart when you send them all around the world? Because they went all over, they weren't UK based, these award recipients, they went all around Europe. So how do you build it? And that was the head scratcher now, because is that I didn't know how to do it, and that's the fun when the fun began. So Katie Galley and Lauren Riley helped me on this project, and Lauren in particular were a superstar. So she would likely be watching this. So I want to thank her for that. She was great, putting up with me, kind of crying when it didn't work. But the client wanted the client's feedback were, we want it to have a base, so we didn't want it just to rise up like fabric, we wanted it to have a base. So we tried to quickly kind of come up with a different kind of this is again sketch, so this is like getting towards where I wanted it to go, but this was the V2 that we worked up. And this is, again, another masterclass in smashing shit together. Because it was like, how can we, and I mean the base really brought it to life, because you give it a bit of a grounding and it kind of rises up and it has that contrast between the two. So it's really nice. But what can we make it out of again that is around the house? So here we have a white pillowcase, a chopped up cardboard tube for the base with a sock wrapped around it. So Art Attack, Scrapping Challenge, whatever you want to call it. This is how you can get, if we're a bit of creative thinking and sweating and a bit of head scratching, you can put something together that I think looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it already looks pretty finished.
Yeah, it's like that. That's, again, they really loved this, but it was just, how do we build the structure and how do we we're getting the form right, we're getting the kind of, this is the V2, we're going to have a base here, it's going to rise up from the base like this, and it's going to look great, hopefully, but how do we make sure it doesn't fall apart? So we started using these traditional tailoring techniques, so how you kind of cut the fabrics into different sections, and really started playing with how we could cut different shapes, how we cut different patterns to try and create different forms. And this was a huge amount of like R&D and experimental kind of try, fail. And then I failed a lot on the sewing machine, like we've got here, and that was great fun, kind of. But yeah, just again, lots of trial and error. This is not something that you just go, ta-da, I'm amazing, and this kind of just came out of nowhere. It was just through dogged determination and knowing that we knew what we were doing. It's just we didn't quite know how to get there, and we eventually got there.
And now you're a master tailor.
Exactly. So then if you want a suit making,
I will order one this weekend.
I'd love to make you a suit just to see what you look like in it.
Oh, there you go. That's your next project then, like as your side project. Start making a suit.
Yeah. So the idea was the kind of solution that we came up with was to create this wireframe and this almost like a skeleton within it. And again, to create this, we used coat hangers. So you can see there on the right, just the old thick wire coat hangers that we kind of cut apart and chopped up to use the wire. So we're keeping it sustainable. We're repurposing materials that already existed, and repurposed wood as well. So we created a timber base for these to sit within. So the wire sits within the timber base, and then we build these sculptural forms around the wire, and then use these tailoring techniques to stitch and hand stitch, almost like you would do with like a haute couture dress. How you would kind of stitch these to the model. We're kind of stitching this to the wire. That's probably the best way of describing it, or it's our way of describing it anyway. We're stitching it to the wire, and so that it all kind of holds in place to create these really sculptural forms, and they went down really well. But they ended up. Also, this is a shot of Lauren actually stitching things together. And you can see there just on the right hand side we've got the pins in there, so it was all about kind of trial and error, pinning it in place. She'd hand it back to me, I'd kind of pin it like this, and then because by now we've figured out that I can't sew, so I'm just sick of stabbing myself with needles, so we worked together and played a bit of tennis with this and went back and forth, and we created,
remind me, how many trophies did you guys have to make?
God, we created 10 in the end. And then they ended up looking like this. So this is the end product.
Nice.
Where we've got these really sculptural kind of flowing forms that hold in position, and then we've got the wooden base. So again, completely 100% sustainably made. And again, focused on fashion and the fashion sector.
Awesome. The example I'd seen before was purple, so you did like different colors for. There you go.
We did variations. So we had this one which was more linked to the EU's branding, and then we had another one that was for. They were a special award, and we'd made one green one. I've not got any photos of that one though, unfortunately, because we only made the one. So I'll try and make another one at some point. So we've got photographs of it. We made a green one as well for. There were one award that somebody had. They wanted to award somebody with a specialist award.
Nice.
So we made a different one to signify that was a different trophy. And one thing that I haven't got a photo of, unfortunately, but just to keep it linked to the fashion, rather than stick a metal label or engrave the label into it, so the winner's name and the winner trophy, we stitched in like a clothing label.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it just ended up being a really nicely kind of end-to-end project where we're telling that narrative of fashion and reimagining fashion with a completely unique design. The client loved them. They said that it was the best one that they'd had in the 12 years or so that they'd been running the competition. So that were massive praise from them, which we're really proud for all of us.
Well deserved. It turned out great.
Yeah, I don't take compliments really well. I don't know what to do with them after. I'm just trying to do a good job. How
did you get around your transport issue that you mentioned at the beginning?
Yeah, so just for everybody who don't see me screaming on Twitter about this, so we packaged them up, we meticulously made them with love and stress, and they looked great. We're really proud of them. Packaged them all up really carefully in this kind of custom box thing, and put all this packaging around it so it was safe and it was just snug. It were already, even if it got shook about or dropped, it weren't going to damage it. It was going to be fine. And then we sent them off to the couriers. The courier them to London to the head office down there, and then they were going to get fired around Europe. We got a delivery note at 8 o'clock in the morning saying they'd been delivered. Brian had delivered them, and then we got an email 12 hours later saying, "Kyle, where are the trophies?"
Oh God!
At which point I think I fell over, and that ensued like 6 days of "Where are the trophies, Brian?"
6 days.
Yeah, it went on for a while, and it was like, "Where are they? Where are they? Where are they?" And somebody had put them in a cupboard.
What? What the hell?
Brian had put them in a cupboard. Brian. So and it was just like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we can't remake them because they take like 18 hours to make one. Like, what we we've not got any bases, we've not got any fabric, we've not got any, and it's not like we could just go to the shop and get the fabric. But
they turned up in the end.
They went around and everybody's happy, and we're really, really happy and proud. It's one of those projects that, again, I like to learn something and teach something ideally on a project, on any project that I get involved with, if we can, and learned a lot on this, and already had a load of respect for people who work in fashion and fashion designers, but wow, like how you sculpt fabric is a lot more difficult than it looks. It is so hard. It's getting it to stay where you want it to go. It's like, I don't know, wrangling eels. Whatever that is. So I'm known for coming out with some weird stuff. So moving on to Santander. So this is a project that we've recently just launched as well for Santander. This is completely different to that. And that's why I want to just talk through a variety of different projects and concept with the key. So the previous one, the concept with the phoenix and reimagining fashion and sustainability at its core. Mm-hmm. This brief was to spark a conversation that was relevant to the area and preferably with a layer of gamification. So what that means, the brief, the job was they're building a new building in Milton Keynes currently. And they needed a construction hoarding, so the bit that goes around the perimeter of the construction site, they wanted to clad it with graphics or something that sparked a conversation that's relevant to the area, and preferably with a layer of gamification. Gamification is making it into a game, so making it interactive to the audience or the user without it being digital, because it's a huge thing. And again, a tricky brief, a big bloody canvas. It's massive. It's a huge site, and we wanted to kind of tie it all together. So we started off by doing the research in terms of tackling the relevance to the area, and how we looked for the answer within the research. So Milton Keynes, for anybody who is in the Midlands of the UK, heading towards the south, just above London, it's a fairly new place. I think it was built in the mid 50s. Mm-hmm. So we were looking for the heritage of the area, and we were looking to beyond what would have gone before, because it's a relatively new area. So and on Milton Keynes is Bletchley Park, which is the home of World War II codebreakers and Alan Turing. So anybody who's seen The Imitation Game, that guy who cracked the Enigma code. So we thought this were a really interesting kind of bit of gold really within the research, and just looking at how we would tackle this and how we could create something that had that layer of gamification. So we looked on the right hand side. We've got the Morse code that they used all the time to relay messages in a hidden manner, and I thought we could do something in an interesting way with this. So we took the code So we took the Morse code and we created words out of the Morse code. And we had 4 core principles on that project for the building. So that's explore, possibilities, sustainability, and adventure. So this new building wants to represent all these 4 core principles. So we took those 4 words. We took those 4 words and made them out of Morse code, and then put them and created these vector patterns where we have this abstract kind of bobbliness going on to create this hoarding, which it sparks a conversation because it looks wicked. It almost looks 3D because it's got all this depth to it, so it really jumps out on the hoarding.
Yeah.
So it does. We had people when it were getting installed. We had people pulling up going, "What's this?" Which were again that from day one. It were like, "Yay, client's happy," because it sparked the conversation from day one. But it has that layer of gamification in there and relevance to the area because it's steeped in Morse code and the relevance to Bletchley, and everybody knows in the area that it's all about the code breakers. So within this is the word explore in this section. So we printed the Morse code alphabet alongside this and gave a little clue as to say that this has can you crack the code, and it adds that layer of gamification and sparks a conversation between older generations who know what Morse code is and know what the code breakers are. Sparks a conversation with ideally what we were envisaging is grandkids going out on a walk with the grandparents or parents, and then just talking about it and educating them and really trying to find the individual letters and then piecing the letters together to create the words. So that you have that layer of gamification. So you can start to see how this works, where you've got the code kind of dissipating there and revealing the word, which in this case we did this just to advertise the building name, which is Unity Place. So just how that kind of comes from that and really just dissipates down. So that just shows what this actually means. I think this one says possibilities. But it is one of those. It's not an easy code to crack, but we didn't want it to be easy. It's going to be there a few years. We wanted it to have that conversation. We wanted it to have that layer of gamification, and it did really work perfectly as we wanted it to this one. And we're really happy with the results.
Yeah.
As a designer, this is a dream project really. That the client were great. They kind of really got behind doing this and loved the fact that it had this hidden meaning that were relevant to the whole area, and that it looked so graphic and modern and contemporary, as opposed to what you would normally see on a
Definitely coolest hoarding I've ever seen. Can tell you that.
Thanks. It's something that it'll always be one of those again that is a proud piece of work. I mean, it took some doing.
I bet.
I mean,
So the shapes, did you try and hide some shapes in these 3D forms, or are they all just randomly generated?
No, these were hand done in Illustrator. So
oh wow!
The 3D stuff, the kind of animation bit makes it look like we just screen grabbed it and then that's it. No, we did them. We created them and pulled and created the meshes. So we could individually drag. It's better on the long, so we could individually drag sections. So on this particular piece, you can see it doesn't show it really well on the photo, but the signpost there where it says Milton Keynes North and West, it's actually recessed in a meter. So we wanted to design them so we could tailor it round where you've got lampposts and little divots in the hoarding line. We wanted to tailor it so that each bit kind of looked right, so that it did feel like one continuous piece. And
yeah, it does. I didn't see that it was recessed.
Yeah, it's because of the design. I mean, it kind of looks like a mock-up. This, and it's not. It's a photograph. It's there, but the reason it's so, even though there's I mean, yes, the photograph's been edited, but even the raw footage, shots they don't look kind of real because of the abstract, like op art kind of illusion that it creates on the hoarding, the bit on the left there where it really extrudes out, it looks like it's coming out of the hoarding, and it kind of dazzles the eyes a little bit, which is really, really cool, and it gives it that like arresting kind of quality to it. So it's one thing that's good. But that's why we did it all by hand for that reason, is so that we could tailor it around spots. Because this is the nice bit of the site where it's perfectly straight, but on the corners you had different gradients going down. So we had to design it for. We've got a photo where I think I've got one of the shots. One of the other shots that we've got on the project, you can start to see there on the left hand side how it starts to go downhill a little bit, but the gradients were quite steep in places. So we had to tailor it so it did that. So that's that project. That's where a little bit more of a traditional route from a graphic perspective, but applying a little bit of a concept and thinking, so that you create something that has a concept. But again, the concept really led the design rather than the design leading the concept.
Yeah. How far did you go when presenting the idea initially? I mean, did you already then have like sort of one hoarding mocked up to show them this application in the end, or?
It were done in, we photoshopped, we had photos of the site, and we just kind of photoshopped the sections. I remembered I pulled this out because I found them in the studio from the move, just to go back to what I was saying about the socks and the pillowcases and all that, how you can do it. To get the scaling right, we created like the sections of code.
Oh, what?
Yeah, to get the scaling right, we stuck these on the wall. So we had like loads, like kind of these just dazzling around the studio wall. You just stick them on the wall so you get the scaling right. Because what we couldn't kind of figure out, we had these little printed mock-ups, like these. We had these printed mock-ups.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling this out of a box of crap that's on the floor. Yeah, so we had these printed mock-ups done, so that we could get an idea on how they were going to work and look in line. Put them out of the way. Sorry about that. But what we were trying to do, Dan Ocock helped me with this project, and Ryan Herbert as well. And we were trying to get the scaling right so that when you were looking from afar, when you were across the street, they weren't too small, so that they all blended into one, so that you could see everything. Because if the dots and the dashes were too small, they'd all blend and blur into one.
Of course.
So, or anybody that were visually impaired, for example. So we were trying to get the scaling right so it had that impact, but we weren't quite sure on that. So we created like 3 meters, I think, 3 or 4 meters in the studio, just with pieces of paper cut out. Yeah. I mean,
amazing, great effort.
I mean, it does pay off because we've got the scaling absolutely bang on. But I mean, I don't know whether or not that's a little bit overkill. But yeah. So and another, just finally, I wanted to just talk you through more of it again.
Oh, we're way over time anyway, so just take your time now.
Okay. Yeah, I should have warned you of that, really.
No, all good. It's fine. It's been super interesting.
So, and this is more of a typical branding project that you get in, and kind of one of those kind of projects that you go, yay, booze, and yay. So we've got a brewery local to us called Acorn, and they wanted a new brand and it's much loved by locals and people from Barnsley. They are passionate. I'm from Barnsley originally, and they are passionate people, and if we mess this up for them, they'd kick off and we'd know about it. So we had to really create a new brand for them to be able to grow the brewery and try and reach into other markets. Particularly, they wanted to get into more supermarket retailers. They were already in supermarkets locally, but they wanted to get in more into more regions around the UK, and hopefully into international markets as well. So we wanted to create a new brand for this, or we had to create a new brand for these. So they're a traditional local brewer and fairly small. And really the concept that we wanted to look at, the community of people that interacted with the brand before we got involved was people in the local community. And we wanted to look at how they interact with the brand and how they so we didn't just come up with something that were really like modern and kind of cool, and that didn't pay reference to the heritage of the brand and alienate again their core fans and customers. So we looked at traditional brewery pubs, which Acorn has their own in Barnsley. They have their own kind of head pub called the Old Number 7, and they have this chalk board where a new beer comes in, you write it on in chalk, you rub it off once it's sold out, and on to the next. So we brought this into the branding. We created a new logo type for them, and we created all these different kind of chalk led drawings. Chalk drawings is not anything new by any means, but we wanted to kind of this to run through the whole life of the brand. So we created all these different assets. These went on loads of different beer mats. We're going to call them coasters then.
That's close enough.
It's how long I've been since I've been to a pub.
Oh man, it's been far too long.
So we created beer mats for these on, so they've won all these awards. So we pulled out all these different bits that not many of their customers actually knew. Only people who were diehard fans knew. So we wanted to kind of really get all this different messaging across, and who didn't love a typographic approach and a typographic route. But the chalk branding is what we kind of ran throughout the whole system, and it allowed them to create new chalk drawings for each individual brand, or when they did a seasonal beer or a limited edition beer, you could quickly create a hand-drawn chalk identity for it that fit within the brand. So you could create and we structured the label so you had everything in its place as you would with the booze brand in particular, so that we had that flexibility and create different identities for different kind of for the different brands. We've just got we had it all on the different glasses, different size glasses. It's that half pint one. And then so that you can see that how it works across the series of the products.
Turn out great.
Yeah, and then we could create like really custom chalk drawings within the bar area and so on. Just running the chalk throughout the brand, and it's not something that we'd seen done on a brand, on a beer brand, and we wanted to kind of run that through the identity and really run with it, and it helped. It just mainly it kind of worked as a system, just from a strategic perspective. It worked really well. It neatened all their product range up. It provided a unique identity for them. Yeah. But not only that, it connected with their core diehard fans who are used to seeing these chalk drawings in the pub every time they go and see that. And what were really nice to see is that we actually, when we went in the pub, started drawing the chalk, and it has that standout feel, so their beer sells better because they started drawing on the chalkboards
the actual chalk drawing from the label. Genius.
Onto that. So that's something that we didn't anticipate them doing, but I'm so pleased that they did. And to be fair to them, they did a bloody good job. Particularly the pale ale, if you just flick between the two, they did a really good job at drawing the letters out and getting the right characteristics. So that were a nice kind of secondary effect. But yeah, so that's us rebranding Acorn as well. And that's it.
Hey!
So, that's that.
Nice one. Thanks very much, Kyle. That was, I didn't want to stop you because it was so super interesting. So we are at 55 minutes. I had said that we would do like a Q&A session on Instagram Live afterwards. I don't know if you still want to do this. I mean, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
It's you. Am I still sharing my screen?
No, I can control what everybody gets to see. So they see you and me side by side now.
Right, no problems. I'm happy to, mate. I'm conscious that you might want to stop listening to my voice.
No, like there's still lots of questions that I have, and we also had some other topics. So I would suggest that we wrap it up here, and we'll head over to Instagram and continue our AMA as we said. So maybe have like a 5-minute break, and then we can go over there and see if we can also get some questions from our audience, which would be awesome.
Cool. Great.
Nice one. Well, Kyle, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time and putting all that together. It was really great to hear more about your work.
Thank you, no, and thanks for anybody who's put up with me for 55 minutes. Very much appreciate it.
All right, everybody else, let's take a 5-minute break. We'll see you on Instagram Live. I'm going to go and grab a beer, and we'll be back shortly.